Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to the next PA Forum Zoom series with our very special guest today, Abigail Barnes. Hi, Abigail. Welcome. It's great to see you today. If for those of you that might not have heard from Abigail before, I actually heard her deliver a session at Exec Live Global, and I completely related with the session straight away, in particular because I've actually started to restructure a lot of the time that I have, a lot of the day, due to the stuff that Abigail was delivering, and I really stand by that, and I think it's a great opportunity for her to be able to share that with you all today. I'm delighted that Abigail has joined us. She's the founder of Success by Training. She's an award-winning entrepreneur and corporate trainer on time management and productive well-being. She's also a qualified coach and creator of the renowned 888 formula. Today's session, we're going to share with you 3 ways to manage your time more effectively. So without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Abigail. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for having me here. And thank you guys for spending your lunchtime with us. As Daniel said, this will be recorded. So if you have to leave for any reason, please leave. Please don't worry. You will be able to catch up on everything. Every training I do is always a fast-paced training because I want to share as much information as possible with you. But I'm also going to let you know about other things and other ways that we can continue our conversation about other trainings that I do, etc., etc. So if you have any questions, obviously put them in the chat, but do know that I've delivered these sorts of trainings to so many audiences that it has been adapted. So you are going to get exactly what you need to hear today. And I literally cannot wait to hear when you get your aha moments, because I love it getting emails from people or in the chat when they're like, oh my God, damn, I get it. So get your notebooks ready and your pens. I am going to share the screen. And Dan, please let me know if this doesn't show up full screen. So,
perfect. All good.
We are talking today about 3 ways to manage your time more effectively. There are a million ways, but let's just focus on 3. Keep it super simple. Can we see the next slide? Cool. So the first thing is we're going to talk about how you can be more productive working from home, which is obviously where we all are, unless you're like Sharon in your car. The second way is the art of boundary setting and saying no, which is something that I know a ton of us struggle with. So I'm going to give you some tips around that. And the third thing we're going to talk about is creating a daily self-care routine for you. So for those of you who have no freaking idea who I am, that's awesome. My name is Abigail Barnes. I'm an author of this book, Time Management for Entrepreneurs. I'm a consultant and an executive coach, and I focus on something called productive well-being, which is basically productivity and well-being coming together, because we are sort of human beings doing our jobs. We're not just one thing. We're not just a productivity machine. We actually need to think about our wellness at the same time. I'm also an international speaker, and when I'm invited to speak, I talk around productivity, wellness, and life balance. And then below these pictures, you'll see some organizations that I've worked with and events that I've spoken at. Perhaps you might have caught up with me at some of them. But my life didn't always look like that. Prior to starting my business 7 years ago, I worked in finance for over 10 years in investment management, asset management, and hedge funds. I worked as a marketing assistant and executive, and then sort of marketing manager. And I always wanted to run my own business, but I just had no freaking idea how to do it or what to do. So I just went from job to job to job, searching for things to make me happy. And one of the biggest things that I thought would make me happy was a Prada handbag. And I finally get the Prada handbag, and I didn't really feel much happiness from it. And maybe there's something in your life that you've been chasing, and when you've got it, you've recognized that it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. And I've had this conversation with many people, and some people have said, you know, it's the red bottom shoes for them. Other people have said it was courses. and training that was like the big thing to have. Maybe for you it was, I don't know, a car, a relationship, a partner, a family. But I was just searching. And so then one day my boss said to me, we're going to send you on a work business trip to the US. And I was super excited because I thought, this is it. Once I start traveling and once I'm paid to travel and I can take business class flights, then that's it. My life is just going to be complete and I'm just going to be a super happy human. So they sent me to Boston in the US on this business trip. And it was supposed to be a week of training. And I arrived on the Friday night. My friend picked me up from the airport and took me to her parents' house where we had dinner, went to bed, and woke up the next morning. And she comes into the guest bedroom, super excited because we were off to Starbucks to have a girly catch up and a coffee, as was the thing. And I sort of excused myself for a minute and said, would you mind, I've got a really bad headache. I think I need another half an hour to sleep. She was like, Abigail, get up. Get up. We've got a busy day. Take some painkillers. Move on. Like, you've probably got a hangover. And then the next minute, black and white lights started flashing in front of my eyes. And I felt really sick. I'm asking her if she can pass me the dustbin in the guest bedroom. And I find myself throwing up in the dustbin in the guest bedroom just as her mum walks into the room. Because my friend, I don't know why, but she left the door open when she came in. But actually, the reality is leaving that door open saved my life, because her mum called the ambulance that took me to the hospital. And 24 hours after they investigated what was happening to me and why I wasn't feeling very well, it turns out that I'd actually had a stroke. So I'm 32 in a foreign country on my own in a hospital, being woken up by a doctor who is telling me that I've had a stroke. And all I can think is my boss is absolutely gonna kill me because I've got meetings and I haven't died. So I've literally got no excuse. And my mind just went kind of a little bit crazy. And maybe you can identify with this, where you just prioritize everyone else and everything else above yourself. So the first question I asked this doctor is that, can I go to work on Monday? To which he replies, no, you're going to the intensive care unit. We need to find out what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. So this was 8 years ago, 25th of February, 2012. And I could spend the whole of our time together telling you about this story and what I've learned since then. But just to say that there was a medical reason why I had the stroke. Their answer was it was a 1 in a million and these kind of things happen and it could have happened to anybody. So I chose to see it as my wake-up call, as my life-changing moment where I decided that things had to be different, because suddenly I realized the value of time, that I'd spent 32 years kind of drifting along in my life, not really making the most of my time and just acquiring things that never made me any happier. So I'm telling you my story to impress upon you why I care about time so much and why I would like you to look at time in a slightly different way for the next sort of 30 minutes of our time together. If you want to find out more about my story, it's online. You can watch where I tell it. And every time I tell it slightly differently. But let's get on to what we're here to talk about today. So fundamentally, the world has changed. The world changed on the 23rd of March, 2012, not 2012, 2020, when the UK went into lockdown, when we found ourselves working remotely, AKA from our homes. And we went one day from being around our colleagues and laughing in the office to the next day working from home and making the best of it. And perhaps this is something that you can identify with, that you find yourself working from the garden, working from bed, working from the kitchen floor, maybe you've converted a room, maybe you're in your pajamas, maybe you're kind of nicely chilled in the garden, but each of us have got a different situation. It might be that this is your reality, that you're actually working from bed while your children are studying, and you're babysitting the dog or a cat, and you are literally, you've got it all, you've got everything going on. So I put these slides in here just to reiterate the fact that we're all finding ourselves in different situations, and nobody is in the same situation. Nobody has got it better than anybody else, because fundamentally this is a mind game. So whether you're living in a mansion or you're on a mattress, unless you can learn how to manage your mind in this global pandemic, nothing is going to change, and life is literally going to be unbearable, as it is for some people. One of the biggest things that we've had conversations with our clients about is what they struggle with the most. And obviously we're here today to talk about something else, but I just wanted to let you know that maybe this is something that is coming up for you. Distractions and focus. 73% of people we surveyed said that distractions and focus were their biggest challenge working from home. So we've created a free webinar all about that, where I share 3 things that you can do to avoid distractions and remain focused working from home. If you want to know more about that, that's on my website. So let's talk about the art of boundary setting and saying no. Can any of you identify with this young lady here? Perhaps it's not you, perhaps it's actually a friend, perhaps you're much better at managing your time than this, and you are not taking your laptop to bed late at night and replying to emails and doing work. But if you are, or maybe it's a friend of yours that you know is doing this, then let's talk about some ways that you can set some boundaries. First thing though, before we talk about this, let's talk about what you have in common with these 3 awesome women. And for those of you who've seen the training before, you already know. And for those of you who haven't, what do you think you have in common with Oprah Winfrey, Arianna Huffington, and Beyonce? Because believe it or not, you do have something in common with these women. The thing you have in common with them is the same 24 hours. And what I mean by that is we all have the same amount of time every single day. And yes, you don't have the same bank account. And yes, you don't have the same assistants and teams and support. And yes, you don't have the same nannies and childcare and chefs and personal trainers and drivers, etc. But you do have the same 24 hours. And if you could change the way you think about this from this slide, from this next 5-minute conversation that we're going to have, this will be one of the biggest mind shifts that I can give you during our time together. Because what is different between them and us is very, very simply the beliefs that they have about time, the beliefs that we have about time. We call this the BHR model because basically the beliefs create your habits and your habits create your results. Your beliefs come from your caregivers, from your childhood, from your teachers, from society, from the countries that you live in, that you're born in, that you find yourself in, from the TV that you watch, from the books that you read, from the friends that you have, from the organizations that you work for. The beliefs are things that we pick up like a sponge from other people, and these beliefs create habits, and these habits create results. So if we want things to change, if we want to have the same 24 hours as Oprah and Arianna and Beyonce, then we have to look at the beliefs that we've got about time and time management. So let me talk to you about some of the beliefs that you might have around time and self-care, because this is one of the biggest things that it all links to, and we're going to talk a bit more about self-care as our time goes on here. How we treat ourselves and how we spend our time creates the life that we have, the reality that we live. But if we fundamentally believe that we don't have enough time, it's self-indulgent to spend time on ourselves, thinking about ourselves, our hopes, dreams, and our goals, that we should be spending time with somebody else, doing something else, and not doing things for ourselves. If we believe that people like us don't do things like this, if we believe that, spending time on ourselves, doing things for ourselves, even this kind of lunchtime training, it's not actually doing anything, then nothing in our life is ever going to change. So in order to have a different life, we need to have different beliefs. So here are the opposite beliefs of these beliefs. So let's say that I don't have time to do something for myself. I don't have time to change things. I don't have time to think about anything else. Is changed to I've got 8 minutes. And I'm going to talk to you in a minute about what 8 minutes actually means and what it can mean for your life. It's self-indulgent to spend time doing things for myself. How about this? It's an investment. I should be spending time with XYZ. I'll spend quality time with them. Have you ever spent time with somebody when they're just distracted and they're not there, and you're sort of trying to chat to them and you can see their eyes and maybe they're on their phone and they're not listening? Quality time. You could spend a whole day with somebody where you're distracted versus 30 minutes with somebody where they have quality time. People like me don't do things like this. I care more about what I think than I do about what other people think of how I spend my time and what I'm doing with it on a daily basis. And then it's not doing anything is changed to it's cumulative. So anything that we do for ourselves, any training that we attend, any activities that we do for ourselves, it has a cumulative effect. It's not like, best analogy I can give you is going to the gym. You don't go to the gym and get a 6-pack overnight. You go to the gym and it comes in time. And maybe it's not the 6-pack you want. Maybe it's the Michelle Obama arms. I'd love to have arms like her. But in order to do that, there's certain things I need to do on a daily basis to get those arms, like push-ups, which I kind of do on an alternate day basis, because obviously clearly I don't want it enough. But these beliefs, we have beliefs for everything. We have beliefs for time, we have beliefs for money, we have beliefs for relationships, we have beliefs for jobs, we have beliefs for our health, our wealth, what is possible. But these beliefs are around self-care, because I want to talk to you today about how I fundamentally believe that we can change our relationship by time by starting from the foundation of giving to ourselves. So I said about the art of saying no. Now, there is an art to saying no, and it is helped by understanding what you're actually saying yes to. So when somebody asks you, can you do this extra thing? You have to have in your mind's eye what you would be doing instead, what you would be doing for yourself, that you are giving up to do that extra thing. And maybe this is somebody in work is asking you, maybe this is somebody in your personal life, maybe this is a friend, a family member, your children, your partner. They are asking you to do other things. And what are you sacrificing in order to do that? And when you fundamentally understand that you have these 24 hours and this is your time, and if you say yes to other people's stuff, you're saying no to yourself. So when you say no to somebody else, you are saying yes to yourself. You were saying yes to having time to exercise, yes to having time to eat with your family, yes to having time for relationships, yes to being able to sit and read a book, to cook a meal from scratch. And it helps when it comes to having to say no, to understand that you're saying yes to yourself. And there are so many ways that we can say no without saying no, and that's a whole nother training. But just know that fundamentally understanding that saying no means you're saying yes to yourself is going to really help you stand by your intention, stand by your will to actually do it. Because sometimes we know we should, but we still don't. But when we really lock in, this is what I'm sacrificing or giving up, it can often make our willpower much stronger. So let's really focus in on this time and time management and ways that you can be more effective. I truly believe that if you make yourself a priority, if you fill your own cup up every day, you are going to be an efficiency machine. So here are 3 signs that it's time for you to do something for yourself. And, we call it self-care. So perhaps you're finding yourself snappy, irritated, short-tempered or drained. Perhaps the corona roller coaster has really also got to you and you're struggling to find joy in the things that you usually loved doing. And perhaps also your productivity is low or lower and your efficiency is kind of non-existent to the point where you don't really care. Our cup is not what we give from. We give from the saucer. Our job every day is to fill our cups with energy. We create the energy. We don't come with energy. So we have to do things every day. It is our job to do whatever it takes to have the energy that we need to perform at our highest. And I call this, or we call this, protecting the asset. So since my wake-up call, I am much more aware that my body is like the machine that keeps me in this game of life. That if anything happens to my body, my health, which is actually my ultimate wealth, then I can't do what it is that I'm here to do. So I call this protecting the asset. And I really see that it's our own individual jobs to protect the asset, to look after ourselves, to look after our health, because nobody else can manage our health for us. And it comes down to the self-care that we're going to talk about in a minute, the things that we're eating, the mindset that we've got, the people that we hang around with. Literally, our body, our machine is what keeps us in the game. And if anything happens to this, as we've seen with the coronavirus, health is wealth. So for those of you who haven't heard me talk about the 888 formula before, why this actually matters in the conversation that we're having right now. So the 888 formula is 24 divided by 3, for those of you who are good at maths. And what this means is we have divided the 24-hour day into 3 pillars. So the first pillar is rest. The second pillar is work. So let's imagine that these 2 are either side, supporting in the middle, the third pillar, activities. And we call this the jam in the 888 sandwich. Now, the activities are your life. So if you're not resting, and science says we need to rest, sleep between 7 to 9 hours a day. And if you're not working, and society says that we need to work 8 hours a day, what is left is your life. So prior to COVID, this included your commute, which it doesn't right now. This also includes the time for your relationships, the time for cooking your food, buying your food, cleaning up your food, eating your food, for exercising, for personal admin. It's everything. So let me just give you like a super top level overview of all of these. So rest includes sleep. It includes activities like meditation and mindfulness. The work, I'm calling this your job, your projects, and other, because I don't know about you, but whenever I worked, wherever I worked, there was always this other that my boss used to say, well, that's just other, that I used to end up having to do. And that other would take up so much time. And then the activities, as I just said, is your relationships, your exercise, your life admin, your commute, basically everything. So what the 888 formula does is it gives you a snapshot, an overview of your life. It's the quickest way for you to identify where you are out of balance in your life. Are you not getting enough sleep? Are you working too much? Or perhaps you're spending too much time on your life and work is kind of suffering and struggling. I have to say at this point that the numbers will become your own. And everybody has 3 different numbers, because everybody needs to sleep or rest for a different amount of time. People will be working for a different amount of time. And then, as I said, what is left is your life. But what you must understand is where these dissect or bisect or overlap is where you will create the life formula that works for you, where you will find the joy. Your formula will change throughout your life. When you have a family or children, your formula is going to change. When you start a new job, your formula is going to change. And obviously during Corona times, the formula is going to change. So the formula is there as a foundation, as a baseline to get you thinking, to get you started. I am in no way, shape or form saying that 888 needs to be everybody's way of living, because it isn't and it doesn't. So, final thing I wanted to talk to you about is protecting the asset. You know, I just said this, our bodies, our number one priority, and we call this the 8 for me. So this is about what you can do for yourself every day for 8 minutes, because we've all got 8 minutes. We spend more time scrolling the internet, on phone calls with friends, watching box sets. We have 8 minutes every day. And we've broken it down into 3 pillars of types of activity that you can do every day. And all I'm suggesting that is that you try one. I obviously do more than one, and this is what people do once they've got used to how it works. But just doing one of these types of activities every day, it might be you've already got a self-care routine, which is awesome. But things like walking, doing yoga, doing a HIIT energizer class, journaling, gratitude. Do some of you do like keep a gratitude journal, reading, and then meditation? So we've broken this down into 8 activities that we've created training for, which I can tell you more about how you can access all of that for free if you're interested. And these activities are literally going to change your relationship with yourself, your relationship with time, and then how we do one thing is how we do everything. It will translate into your personal relationships and into your working relationships. Because fundamentally, when it comes to time management, we all know, 99.9% of us know what we should be doing, but we're not doing it because there's some kind of resentment in us where we feel like, but what about me? So I'm doing all of this stuff for other people, what about me? And what the 8 for me does is it helps you to give to yourself before you give to others. So we recommend that you do at least one of these exercises at the start of the day. And maybe during Corona times, you found yourself doing quite a bit of walking. I know it's something that I've done a lot myself, and I know other people who've been doing walks and even have found that 8 for me training so inspirational that they've gone on to carry on doing it and lost a stone. This is crazy stuff. And then the final sort of pillar, as I said, is the meditation. If you've loved what I've been talking about, I have 2 groups, one on Facebook, one on LinkedIn. They're both called the same thing. the 888 community. I'd love to see you in there. And in the Facebook group, we talk quite a lot about the 8 for me, because we just recently ran a 28-day challenge around the self-care to help people get into the habit and activity of doing things for themselves every day. This is something that I haven't announced anywhere yet, so I just wanted to tell you guys about this first before it goes on to Eventbrite later today. But we've been asked by people to create something that we're calling a power hour, where we can get together for 60 minutes similar to this, but there will be 10 of us, and you'll be talking with me about your biggest time management challenge that you've got right now. And during that time, we'll come up with a solution for what you can do next to overcome it. And this is for people whose organizations perhaps aren't too forthcoming with investing in trainings and stuff right now. So this is where you would be investing in yourself. And there's, as I said, there's only 10 places for this, so that it can be an intimate kind of conversation. And these will be going on at £22 for the early bird, £27 for the full price. And if you want to find out more about how you can grab one of these places, you can email me or email Dan, and we can make sure that those are reserved for you before it goes on to Eventbrite later today. Final thing I want you to take away from this is, it's not how you spend your time, it's what you're getting for the time you spent. So what I learned when I thought that I was going to die, my biggest takeaway was that I had never really invested time in who I wanted to become, thought about who I was, what I was doing here, and why, what my life purpose was. So I reaped what I sowed. I didn't really have anything that I was truly, truly proud of at that time. But how you spend your time right now, or how you've been spending your time, has created the life you've got. If you're not happy with the life you've got, that it has never been a better time to change. So that brings us to Q&A. Dan, or Daniel, if you're around and want to open the floor to people and their questions. Final thing I want to say is, you can reach out to me on all these social media platforms if you want to have further chats or conversations about anything, or want to talk to me about how this training could be brought into your organization. Then you can email me and we can hop on a call, or connect me to whoever is the right person in your organization. I'm on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and you can also connect to me on LinkedIn as Abigail Barnes. But that's all I wanted to share with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Abigail. Thank you. We have got some time for Q&A, ladies. So if you want to ask any questions, what I'll do is I'll stop the recording now, just so if you wanted to ask anything, it's not publicised afterwards. So I'm just going to stop that now.